And Philip here, Prince Philip here,
Yeah.
started working for Jan 3, Samson Mouse company, about a year ago, or a
Yeah, it
little
was a
less.
year ago
Yeah.
when
Yeah, and yeah, would you like to tell us what you're doing with Jan 3 and nation state adoption? Is this sort of like the same attitude you have there?
it is exactly the same attitude. I joined Jan 3 actually, I was invited to Jan 3 just over a year ago when I met Samson Mao in Miami, the Bitcoin conference in Miami. That was just a month after I came out of the closet as a Bitcoiner. And next thing I know, coming out on TV as a Bitcoiner, getting a lot of attention. I was then invited to podcasts, and next thing I know, I'm in Miami and I'm meeting Samson Mount, and he offers me a job at his new startup, which is Jan 3, which is a Bitcoin technology infrastructure company, but with the mission of hyper-Bitcoinization and nation-state adoption. And we're like any other Bitcoiner, we understand Bitcoin is a bottom-up approach. That's why we're all here. Bitcoin is it's a tool for liberation. It's a tool of freedom. It's a tool for hope. It's a tool for many things that will allow us to communicate with the right incentives with everyone around the world. And that's foremost one of the most important things about Bitcoin. But of course, we need to educate high-level nation states, politicians, monarchs, heads of companies, influential people about what Bitcoin is and why it is important and why it is unstoppable and why they should adopt it and be kind to it and allow for it to develop naturally within their borders. This is important for them, and if they're one of the first movers, politicians like to be remembered. Politicians are they're very short-term thinkers, most of them, but they also like to be remembered in the long term. Most of them are easily forgotten. So we like to tell them that if you're the first mover, you will have maybe a statue built. And you'll have the fame of being a first mover. Okay, we don't do that all the time. But this is what when we approach nation states, we're not trying to tell them, okay, you have to adopt Bitcoin as a legal tender. There's not going to be bukeles all over the world. No one has lucky enough to have one. Maybe unlucky, some people don't like Bukele. Well, we're not here to argue about that. That Bukele was able to just say, okay, we have a Bitcoin standard and you have a choice between US dollars and Bitcoin, which I believe was the right approach. But we go to other nations and say, look, there's other things that Bitcoin can bring. And this is what orange pill me in 2020 when I understood what Bitcoin really was. And that's when I understood what mining was about that Bitcoin is also an energy revolution. And countries are sitting on top of a lot of Bitcoin. You can mine Bitcoin in most countries that have have energy. Any country that has any sort of excess energy, any country that has stranded energy, you can monetize that, and you can use that to fund projects, to build your infrastructure, to improve your infrastructure, and other projects within your borders. And that is basically you're sitting on I wouldn't call it free money because you have to use proof of work to get there, but that is something that a lot of these people don't understand yet, and this is something that's going to change the world. And so when we speak to countries, we tell them about the benefits of maybe adopting being kind to miners, and maybe adopting like a Bitcoin bond, like what Samson Mao designed for El Salvador, which hasn't been released yet, but he structured the first ever Bitcoin bond, the volcano bond. And this is a clever, and it's right now in the current market conditions, it needs to be kind of restructured, but essentially you would say have 1 billion raise, 500 million would go to buying Bitcoin itself, and the other 500 million would go straight into infrastructure of the energy to build the geothermal energy from the volcanoes, and then also to going off to paying whatever comes out of that out of those miners. Every year is paid at a 6.5% coupon, and over 5 years it matures. And this is something that you can do just with any other energy source. So we're trying to pitch this to Costa Rica. I was in Costa Rica last month. And they have a lot of hydroelectricity. Costa Rica, being a very green country that it is, has a lot of good. It's energy rich in hydroelectrics, and they're sitting on their rainy season on a lot of excess energy, and sometimes they can't actually, by law, they can't move this energy elsewhere, but there's no law stopping them from mining it. So some of these hydroelectric plants are starting, I say some, maybe a handful, not even. We met one, and they are actually mining Bitcoin and using that money to improve their infrastructure. And this was a small place. This only had one. Sorry, I don't understand my energy. I think it was 1 mega. Yeah, 1 to 2 megawatts only. So it's quite small.
That is quite small.
I didn't think. No, was it more than that? Sorry, it's small. It was small. Basically, it was not huge. But they're a smaller hydroelectricity plant. But the guy who orange pilled himself in 2020, when COVID dropped, he understood that he had a lot of excess energy and he didn't know what to do. He wasn't allowed to do a lot of things with it. And one of the things he figured out that I think his son or brother told him, is like, oh, have you looked into Bitcoin? He's like, yeah, whatever. But then he looked into it. He's like, oh, okay. And now he's a full-time Bitcoiner. He's mining. I say it's small operation, but it's a lot of it. It's still a lot. He has about three containers worth of miners. This can be done all over Costa Rica, for example, and they could be mining a lot of Bitcoin and funding for a lot of projects to fix their roads that were destroyed by stupid, perverse fiat structures, which meant that a lot of their roads are crumbling away because they got a contract with some company who decided to cut the quality of the cementing that was used and pocket that money, and then after a few years, the road started to crumble. So when you're driving in Costa Rica, you're going to have a wild time. And this is meant to be in one of the most developed, as they proudly claim, to be in one of the most developed democracies in the world. They claim it's as good as Switzerland. Anyway, I think I'm rambling on there, but what I'm trying to say is that Bitcoin, when we go and speak to nations and when we start a conversation, it's not about directly talking about, oh yeah, you have to do legal tender. I think the other route is to talk to them about mining. And obviously there's a lot of bad news about mining out there. We know it's all fake. Look what happened with that wonderful New York Times riot article that came out the other day, and now, yeah. So I'm rambling. What? Yeah.
Maybe I can give you some ammunition for debating the energy FUD with an environmentalist or something like that. When they say that Bitcoin consumes as much energy as Switzerland, that is what they don't understand is that is an argument for shutting down Switzerland and not shutting down Bitcoin. And this is why, because Bitcoin is the purest way of converting energy into a piece of the world's first digital pie, or I should say the world's last digital pie, because it's not the first one, it's the last one, right? Bitcoin is not the first cryptocurrency, it's the last cryptocurrency. And think of the consensus mechanism for the world's reserve currency as it is. Like the US dollar is the world's reserve currency. And that means that oil is priced in dollars, which means that the Federal Reserve can print oil and make everyone else in the world pay for it. That's what it means. If they can print the money, they can print oil, because everyone else needs to pay the price in dollars, so they're stealing from us. And they have, because they've been doing this since at least 1971, they have a lot more money than we have. And we're forced to buy their shit. That's basically what's going on. And how do you get to be the world's reserve currency? Well, you win a world war. So that's the consensus mechanism of fiat currencies. So what is worse for the environment? World wars or incentivizing renewable energy? That is the question you have to ask yourself, because that is the consensus mechanism of Bitcoin. All it does is incentivizes miners to look for the cheapest energy sources out there. And the absolute cheapest energy source there is an actual renewable energy source. What we have now, we call it renewables, but it's subsidized renewables. It's not really actually renewable, but using Bitcoin mining, we can find that. And you can put a Bitcoin miner on the edge of the world where there's no civilization whatsoever, because it doesn't need bandwidth. Like other data centers, like Facebook's and Google's data centers, that need a lot of internet bandwidth. Bitcoin needs, what is it, 4 megabytes every 10 minutes. That's all it needs. No matter how many ordinals Udi or Eric creates, you know, it's still very, very good for the environment. And the narrative right now is like, if we build wind farms and solar plants, we can use, whenever they overproduce, we can use the excess energy to mine Bitcoin with. But flip that equation around and imagine a world where these things are built first and foremost to mine Bitcoin. And when on a very cold day or a very hot day, depending on what country you're in, you steal some of that energy used for mining Bitcoin to give to the society that lives next to it. So that you build out the renewable energy grid so big that it's the most stable thing ever, and only on occasion you drop that mining in order to power the village next to it.
Although I would argue that solar and wind are not great for baseload energy.
No. Did I say solar and wind? I meant nuclear, of course.
Yes.
To give a bit of perspective there, 1 liter of plutonium is equivalent to 5,000 barrels of oil, energy-wise. So nuclear is very, very efficient. Where was I going with this? Like, this is about
we're going
nation-state adoption.
And how Germany have really screwed up with their energy policies recently.
Oh, yeah. But yeah, you have beautiful. I was driving. We'll go to questions and answers soon. I just remembered seeing all the beautiful windmills here driving from Frankfurt and here, and I remember when I drove through La Mancha in Spain. La Mancha. Yeah, La Mancha, where Don Quixote was fighting the windmills.
Don Quixote.
Yeah, Don Quixote was, excuse my part of my French, but Don Quixote was fighting this imaginary windmills.